Hello, I'm Hossein, and welcome to the first episode of my D5 Render Intensive tutorial series here on my YouTube channel. If you have always wanted to create professional, high-quality, real-time renders but didn't know where to start, this course is exactly for you. Throughout this series, we'll start from the very basics and move forward step by step. By the end of this course, you'll be able to create professional renders for architectural projects, interior designs, and even product designs using D5 Render. I've tried to make this course as practical as possible. Instead of focusing on unnecessary details, we'll concentrate on the tools and techniques that you will actually need in real-world projects. This series will probably include around 6 or 7 episodes. My goal is to keep each video focused and not make them unnecessarily long, while still covering all the important topics. So, after finishing the course, you'll have the confidence to use D5 Render in your own projects. It doesn't matter if you have already worked with rendering engines like V-Ray, Lumion, or Twinmotion, or if you are completely new to rendering. This course is designed for everyone, and we'll learn everything step by step together. In this first episode, we'll take the first steps. We'll install the software, prepare the workspace, and explore the main sections of D5 Render to build a strong foundation for the rest of the course. Because once you understand these basics, in the upcoming episodes, we can focus directly on creating scenes and producing professional quality renders without wasting time. So, if you're ready, let's get started. Before we start installing and working with the software, it's better to first understand what D5 Render actually is and why it has become so popular among designers and architects. D5 Render is a real-time rendering engine. This means it allows you to see the results of your changes almost instantly while you are working on your project. Unlike traditional rendering engines, where you usually have to wait several minutes or even hours to get the final result, D5 uses the power of your graphics card and ray tracing technology to display lighting, shadows, reflections, materials, and other scene details with incredible speed and quality. Simply put, D5 transforms the rendering process from a slow and time-consuming workflow into a fast, smooth, and interactive experience. You can import your 3D model, change materials, adjust the lighting, move the camera, and see the results of these changes almost immediately on your screen. This makes the design process much easier because you can make decisions faster and experiment with different ideas without having to wait for a final render every time you make a small adjustment. One of the biggest advantages of D5 is that it's not only designed for creating still images. You can create high-quality renders, animations, and complete presentation videos as well. From defining camera movements to creating project walkthroughs and presentation videos, all of these features are available directly inside the software. That's why D5 is more than just a rendering tool. It can become an important part of your workflow for presenting and showcasing your projects. But D5's capabilities don't stop there. The software comes with a huge library of ready-to-use assets, high-quality materials, plants, trees, natural elements, skies, water, and many other elements you need to create realistic scenes. In addition, newer versions of D5 have introduced various AI-powered features that help improve both the speed of the workflow and the quality of the final results. All of these features have made D5 Render one of the most popular rendering engines in recent years, especially in architecture, interior design, landscape design, and even product design. If I had to summarize everything in one sentence, D5 Render is a tool that helps you visualize your design ideas faster, more realistically, and more professionally, without getting stuck in long and complicated traditional rendering processes. If you want to learn more about D5's features and get a general overview of its capabilities, I have already published a complete introduction and review video about this software. I recommend watching that video after this tutorial. I'll leave the link both in the corner of the screen and in the description section below. Now that we have a better understanding of D5 Render, an important question comes up. Is the free version enough, or do we need to get the pro version? The good news is that D5 Render is available to download and use for free. Along with the free version, D5 also offers professional plans like Pro, which provide additional features and tools for more advanced users. The free version is a great option for learning, practicing, and even creating many personal projects. With this version, you can explore the software interface, import 3D models, use a large part of the asset library, apply materials, create scenes, and experience most of the core features of D5 without paying anything. So if you are just starting to learn D5 render, the free version will be more than enough for your needs. However, if you are using D5 professionally or working on commercial projects, the Pro version gives you access to more advanced features. It includes a larger collection of assets and exclusive materials, more powerful tools for scene creation, advanced animation and output options, and some AI-powered features that are either unavailable or limited in the free version. Another important point is that D5 Render manages the license through your user account. This means that after you log into the software, D5 automatically detects whether your account is using the free version or a professional plan like Pro, and activates the features available for that plan. So there is no need to install different versions of the software. Everything is managed directly through your account. To summarize, the free version is an excellent choice for learning and getting started, and most users can follow this entire course without any issues using the free version. But if you need more advanced tools, a larger asset library, and professional features in the future, you can always upgrade to the Pro version. Before we start installing the software, it's a good idea to take a look at the system requirements for D5 Render and make sure your computer is powerful enough to run it properly. Like most real-time rendering engines, the most important hardware component for running D5 Render is your graphics card, or GPU. Because D5 uses ray tracing technology to display scenes in real time, having a compatible and powerful graphics card has a direct impact on workflow speed, software performance, and rendering time. However, it's important to understand that the power of your GPU affects the processing speed, not the final image quality. For example, if two systems render the same scene with identical settings, the final quality will be the same. The difference is that the system with the more powerful graphics card will complete the process much faster. Besides GPU performance, the amount of graphics memory, or VRAM, is also very important. Having more VRAM allows you to work with larger projects and more complex scenes while maintaining better performance. Now, let's take a look at the minimum system requirements for D5 Render. To run D5 Render, you need Windows 10 version 1809 or newer. For the graphics card, at least one of the following options is recommended: NVIDIA GTX 1060 with 6 GB of VRAM or higher, AMD Radeon RX 6000 XT or higher, Intel Arc A3 series or newer. If you plan to use D5 Lite, the requirements are slightly different. This version requires Windows 10 version 1909 or newer, and it needs an NVIDIA RTX series graphics card to run. Another important point is that if you are using an NVIDIA graphics card and your driver version is higher than 53114, your Windows version needs to be 21H2 or newer to ensure that the software runs properly. If you are not sure whether your system is suitable for D5 Render, the D5 team provides a free tool called Benchmark Tool. By using this tool, you can test your system performance, check D5's running speed and rendering performance, and even compare your results with other users' systems. I'll leave the links to the system requirements page and the benchmark tool in the description section below, so you can check your system before installing the software. Now that we know our system meets the requirements, let's install D5 Render. Simply run the installer, follow the setup steps, and keep the default installation location unless you have a reason to change it. Once the installation is complete, launch D5 and sign in with your account, or create a new one if needed. Your account gives you access to the asset library, cloud features, and free or pro activation. With everything set up, we're ready to explore the D5 Render interface. Now that we have installed the software, it's time to get familiar with the D5 Render interface. At first glance, the D5 interface might look a little crowded, but don't worry. After spending a few minutes with the software, you'll realize that everything is organized in a very logical way, and you'll quickly become comfortable with the environment. The main area of the screen is the viewport. This is where you can see your model, lighting, and the final render result in real time. You'll spend most of your time working in this area. On the right side, we have the settings panel. Almost all settings related to the scene, materials, lighting, camera, effects, and render output are controlled from this section. We'll be using this panel frequently throughout the course. On the left side, we have the project management section. Here, you can manage saved scenes, layers, and all the objects inside your project. At the top of the screen, we have the main toolbar, which includes different tools for importing models, creating scenes, adjusting settings, and accessing other software features. Throughout the course, whenever we need one of these tools, we'll explore it in detail. Before we start working on a project, it's better to understand how navigation works inside D5 Render, because you'll use these controls almost all the time while working with the software. If you hold the left mouse button and move the mouse, the camera will move in orbit mode. This means the camera rotates around the point where your mouse cursor is placed. By holding the right mouse button and moving the mouse, you can change the camera's viewing direction. In this mode, the camera position stays the same, and only the direction you are looking at changes, similar to standing in one place and simply turning your head around. If you hold the middle mouse button or scroll wheel, you can move the view using pan. To move around the scene, we use the W, A, S, and D keys, similar to the movement controls in many computer games. The Q and E keys are used for vertical movement, allowing you to move the camera up and down. If you hold the Shift key while moving, the navigation speed will become almost twice as fast. Holding the Space key makes the movement slower, which is very useful for precise adjustments. Finally, by holding Control and scrolling the mouse wheel, you can adjust the field of view, or FOV of the camera, and change the viewing angle. Now that we are familiar with the software interface and navigation controls, we are ready to import our first project into D5 and start working practically. Now, let's take a look at two more important sections in the D5 interface that you will probably use very often. First, this button in the top right corner is related to navigation. By clicking on it, you can access different settings for controlling camera movement. By default, the free mode is active. This mode gives you complete freedom to move around the scene, and for most situations, this is the option you'll use. From this section, you can adjust the camera movement speed to have better control while navigating through the scene. You can also set the camera height from the ground with precise measurements, which is very useful when you want to simulate a realistic human eye level. In addition, you can rotate the camera and adjust the mouse speed based on your personal preference. The walk mode works a little differently. As the name suggests, in this mode, the camera behaves like a person walking through the environment. The camera stays at ground level and the movement feels more natural, similar to walking in a real space. This mode is especially useful for exploring interior spaces or presenting a project to a client. Now, let's move on to the next button, which is Display. By clicking on this option, you can access settings related to how the scene is displayed inside the viewport. One of the most useful sections in this panel is visibility. From here, you can individually enable or disable the visibility of different elements in the scene, such as lights, cameras, assets, animation paths, and other objects. When you are working on large and complex projects, this feature is extremely helpful because it keeps your workspace cleaner and allows you to focus more easily on the parts you need. Next, we have the Display Mode section, which controls how models are shown in the viewport. The Lit mode is the default and most realistic display mode for the scene, and this is the mode we will use most of the time. Alongside that, we have Wireframe mode, which displays models as lines and is useful for checking the geometry of your models. The Clay mode removes all materials and displays the models with a simple material. This is very useful for evaluating the lighting and overall form of a project without the influence of materials. A little further down, we have the Dynamic option. When this option is enabled, moving elements such as animations, vegetation, water, and other dynamic effects are updated in real time. If you don't have a very powerful system, or you are working on heavy projects, you can temporarily disable this option to reduce the load on your graphics card and achieve smoother performance while working. In the same panel, we also have the Real-Time Quality option, which can be switched between two modes, Precise and Smooth. In Precise mode, D5 calculates lighting, shadows, reflections, and other visual effects with higher accuracy inside the viewport. Naturally, this mode provides better visual quality, but it also requires more system resources. On the other hand, Smooth mode simplifies the calculations and provides a smoother performance. If your project becomes heavy or you experience frame drops, this mode is a better choice. Finally, if you click on Render Preview or press the F4 key, D5 will recalculate the lighting, materials, reflections, and the entire scene, then display a higher quality preview of the final result inside the viewport. This option is useful when you want to carefully review the lighting and materials before continuing with your work. Before we move on to the final buttons in the interface, it's better to talk about one of the most important parts of working with D5 Render: importing 3D projects into the software. In general, there are two main ways to bring your models into D5. The first method is exporting your model from your 3D modeling software using formats like FBX or OBJ, and then importing it into D5 through the File menu and the Import option. This method works perfectly fine, but personally, I don't recommend it as the main workflow. The reason is that every time you make changes to your model, you have to export the file again and import it back into D5. This can be time-consuming and may slow down the overall design process. The second method, and the one I personally recommend, is using LiveSync. If you work with Rhino, SketchUp, Revit, or other supported software, I highly recommend installing the LiveSync plugin. LiveSync is one of the most useful features in D5. With this tool, any changes you make inside your modeling software are updated in D5 almost instantly. For example, if you move a wall, change a material, or add a new object to your project, you don't need to export and import the file again. All changes are automatically synchronized between the two software. This feature becomes especially valuable when you are still designing and constantly testing different ideas. In this course, I'll be using Rhino most of the time because it is the software I personally use in my own projects. However, if you are working with SketchUp, Revit, or any other supported software, don't worry. The overall workflow is almost the same, and only the appearance of the plugin interface may be slightly different. Setting up LiveSync is also very simple. You just need to download and install the plugin for your software from the official D5 website. After installation, the D5 tab or toolbar will appear inside your modeling software, just like what you can see on the screen. The only thing you need to do is make sure your project file has been saved on your computer at least once. After that, simply click the sync button to establish the connection between your modeling software and D5. From that moment on, your changes will be updated inside D5 almost instantly. Of course, LiveSync is not only available for Rhino. There are dedicated plugins for software such as SketchUp, Revit, 3ds Max, Blender, ArchCAD, and several other applications, and they all work based on the same general workflow. In the upcoming episodes of this course, we'll use LiveSync for all of our projects, so you can become more familiar with this powerful feature and learn the fastest and most professional way to work with D5 Render. Now, let's move on to the last section we want to explore in this episode, the camera settings. By clicking on this button, the camera settings panel will open, allowing you to control camera-related options and how the scene is displayed. The first option is Field of View, or FOV, which defines the camera's viewing angle. The higher this value is, the wider the area you can see in the scene. However, the image will also have a wider perspective. On the other hand, reducing the FOV creates a narrower view, similar to using a telephoto lens in photography. Next, we have the focal length option. If you are familiar with photography or rendering, you have probably seen this concept before. By changing the focal length, you can adjust the feeling and perspective of the image and choose a more suitable viewing style, depending on the type of project. If needed, you can also use the camera clipping plane option. This feature is useful when you want to cut through parts of the model or look inside a space without being blocked by walls or objects in front of the camera. Another important feature in this section is depths of field. By enabling this option, you can focus on a specific point in the image, causing objects that are closer or farther from that point to appear blurred. The intensity of this effect is fully adjustable, so depending on the type of render, you can increase or decrease the amount of blur to create a more natural and cinematic look. Next, we have the option to change the camera view type. By default, the scene is displayed in perspective mode, but whenever you need, you can switch the camera to orthographic views, such as top, front, back, left, right, bottom, and different isometric views. This feature is especially useful when you need to work on the precise placement of objects or adjust different parts of your scene. For example, as you can see on the screen, I can switch the camera to the top view and change the display mode to wireframe. In this setup, the D5 environment becomes very similar to software like Rhino or 3ds Max, allowing me to control the position of objects, scene arrangement, and other settings with much more precision. This feature may seem simple at first, but when you are working on large projects, it becomes a very useful tool for managing and organizing your scenes. Now, let's take a look at the left panel of the software, where the project management tools are located. The first section is the scene list. In this section, you can save different views or camera positions for your project. Every camera you create stores not only its position and viewing angle, but also settings such as field of view, depths of field, exposure, camera adjustments, and other parameters related to that specific view. This means that if, for example, you have an exterior view, an interior view, and several close-up shots of project details, you don't need to set up the camera from scratch every time. You can simply click on any saved camera and the exact same position and settings will be loaded again. This feature is especially useful for creating animations, producing multiple renders from different angles, or comparing changes throughout the design process. In addition, you can rename cameras, organize them, delete them, or create new camera views whenever you need. The next section is layers. If you have worked with software like Rhino, SketchUp, or 3ds Max before, the concept of layers will be very familiar to you. Layers allow you to organize and manage different parts of your project. For example, you can place trees, furniture, lights, buildings, landscape elements, or any other part of your project into separate layers. This makes large projects much easier to manage, because whenever you need, you can hide, show, or lock an entire group of objects with just one click. The more complex your project becomes, the more important proper layer management will be. At the bottom of this section, we have the object list, which contains all the objects in your project. This section displays all the models that have been added to your scene. For example, as you can see on the screen, I have a Terran object and a Rhino file connected to D5 through LiveSync inside this project. From here, you can manage all of your objects. Whenever you need, you can select an object, rename it, lock it to prevent accidental movement, or use the hide option to temporarily remove it from the scene and show it again whenever needed. As the number of objects increases, this panel becomes one of the most important tools for project management. It makes finding and editing different elements of your scene much easier, especially when you are working on large and complex projects. Now, let's move on to the object editing tools. At the top left corner of the viewport, we have the Move tool. This tool works very similarly to the gumball feature in Rhino. With it, you can move objects along different axes or rotate them in the scene. If you click on this tool, it will switch to the scale mode. You can also use the V shortcut key to quickly switch between move and scale modes. In scale mode, you can change the size of an object along one or multiple axes, making it larger or smaller as needed. If you have worked with any 3D modeling software such as Rhino, SketchUp, Blender, or 3ds Max before, the workflow of these tools will feel very familiar, and you'll get comfortable with them very quickly. And finally, we reach one of the most important parts of D5 Render, the asset library. After opening the software, one of the first things that will probably catch your attention is D5's huge collection of ready-to-use assets. This library includes thousands of 3D models, such as different types of trees, plants, vehicles, furniture, people, lights, equipment, materials, and many other elements needed to create realistic and high-quality scenes. Adding these assets to your project is also very simple. You just need to drag and drop them into your scene, and they will be added immediately. One of the main reasons behind D5's popularity is the high quality of its ready-made assets. Most of these models have excellent geometry, materials, and rendering quality, allowing you to create professional and realistic scenes in a much shorter time. In the upcoming episodes of this course, we'll spend a lot of time working with the asset library. We'll learn how to search for assets, download them, manage them, and use them effectively to create professional scenes. All right, I think this is a good place to end the first episode, and I don't want to make the video unnecessarily long. In this episode, we learned what D5 Render is, explored the differences between the free and pro versions, checked the system requirements, completed the installation and setup process, and finally got familiar with the interface and the most important sections of D5. In the next episode, we'll start working with the software practically. We'll learn how to apply materials after importing a project, prepare the scene, set up the initial lighting, and create our first professional renders. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you support the channel by clicking the like button. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming episodes of this series. You can also help this video reach more people by using the hype feature and sharing your support for the tutorial. And as always, if you have any questions or anything is unclear, feel free to leave a comment below. I read all the comments and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this video. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.